This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey there. Welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Ayana Major Bey, and welcome to the first episode of Season 7. To keep up to date with all things about this podcast, make sure you subscribe to the monthly newsletter at ayanabey.com/podcast. On this episode, I am joined by art consultant and theological art historian, Dr. Quahana Hendree, who has a unique journey that connects the corporate world and the artistic community. We dove into her journey from a fearless 5-year-old passionate about art to becoming a powerhouse art consultant. She shared how she bridges the gap between the business world and the art world, increasing art IQ while getting artists paid and corporate spaces beautified, and how art not only enhances corporate environments, but also nurtures productivity and well-being. Get ready to explore how art consulting can bring alignment between businesses and their visual spaces, fostering a seamless blend of aesthetics and function. Whether you're an artist wanting to expand into corporate spaces or someone intrigued by the transformative power of art, this episode promises a wealth of inspiration and wisdom. My takeaway from this episode is that Dr. Hendree reminded me that every pivot, even the challenging ones, adds to my skills and growth. I would also love to hear your takeaways from this episode, so feel free to send me an email to ayana@theartistpivot.com. Okay, let's get into it.
Hi, I am Dr. Quahana Hendree, and I am on the Artist Pivot podcast.
Come take a listen and let your inner artist play, creating your dreams step by step every day. If you're feeling lost and don't know what to do, always remember that you can pivot to the Artist Pivot. The Artist Pivot. We Audition is the video chat community where actors can audition, self-tape, rehearse, and get expert industry advice. Get instant self-tape readers through video chat, browse through the dedicated actor meditations, podcasts, and books, meet casting directors in the virtual green room, and also make money by becoming a reader for other actors. If you join We Audition and use code PIVOT, you will receive a 25% discount on your membership. Yes, that's right. We Audition and the Artist Pivot have partnered to bring you this discount. From my own experience, I love being a reader for other actors, and We Audition is so convenient for me when I need a reader myself. Again, if you join We Audition and use the code PIVOT, you will receive 25% off your membership. Link in the show notes. All right, y'all. So today on the podcast, I am so excited to say that I have Dr. Quahana Hendree. And y'all, I'm excited to have this conversation with her. But first of all, how are you doing today?
I am simply glorious, my dear, as always.
Yes, I love that. I love that answer. I love that answer.
Feel free to take it.
Thank you. I will. I'm going to borrow that from you.
Feel free.
So I'm going to start with my 2 favorite questions. I have not retired these questions yet. I feel like I've been asking them since season 2, and I'm sorry, y'all. I love them. So if you're tired of them, I don't know what to tell you. So I have to ask, 1, how are your hydration levels today? Have you had enough water? And 2, if I were to text you and say, Quahana, how are you doing today? How you feeling? But you could only respond in emojis only, what would you text me?
Number 1, My hydration levels are fabulous.
Yes.
Since it's the middle of the day, I'm halfway to my optimal hydration point.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I'm good for now.
Yeah.
And if you were to text me, the emoji I would send you would probably be me laughing and smiling.
Yes.
Because I do that all the time.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that. Yes. Thank you for that imaginary text.
Hey, I do my best.
Yes. I appreciate it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm actually going to start this off with a little, I guess, comment, relational, something. I don't even know. I don't even know what to call it, y'all. But anyway, in your intake form, I noticed something that you said about 5-year-old Quahana. And I was like, oh, I'm so touched by it, because I actually keep a picture of 2-year-old Ayana on my desk. And when you wrote this, I was like, yeah, I'm so here for it. And so you said, when doubt creeps in, I remember 5-year-old Quahana as the energetic soul that moved determinately through life with color, laughter, and joy. And once again, I can pivot with seamless grace and dignity. And I'm like, girl, listen, this is why I keep 2-year-old Ayana on my desk. That's her right there.
Oh my gosh, that is so scrumptious. Oh, cute.
This little nugget to be like, would you talk to her like that? So don't talk to yourself, because she's inside of you, right? So when you wrote that, I said, oh yeah, we have to start there. Like, 5-year-old helps you through these pivots, doesn't she?
It does. I'm looking at a picture of me right now. I have it on my wall here.
Yeah.
So every time I'm sitting at my desk, I'm looking at myself as a 5-year-old, because that's always the core that I go back to, literally.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely fearless, and I always come back to that.
Yeah.
Because it just centers me,
Yeah. I love that, right? And it centers you. It brings you back to the fearless little girl who was inside you before the world got to you, before the you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and all of the above. And so what I would like to ask you is, did 5-year-old you know about art consulting, or know of that? Or, I know you're also a theological art historian, a speaker, educator. Did 5-year-old you even have a clue what an art consultant was?
No, 5-year-old me knew that art was my passion, and that I wanted everyone to experience that passion.
Okay.
And I always knew that I wanted to be that conduit that could make that happen.
Yeah.
But I had no idea how that would play out.
Okay, fair. So take me through even a highlight reel of how you got to, being an art consultant. Right.
Well, when I was about 10 years old, I guess I knew a corporate art buyer. And so I thought, that's interesting. So when I started my education, I started in architecture, moved into business and art history, and then went to master's in arts management, doctorate in theology, to be a theological art historian. Okay. And once my corporate career ended, that's when I gave myself permission to start the business. And I immediately thought back to that corporate art buyer that I knew, and knew that breed had kind of died out, but thought, how can I navigate my business degree, my art history degree, my art management degree, and my experience in corporate and nonprofit America to connect people with art in the simplest way possible. And in doing so, marry all of the industry and all of the industry experience I had, as well as all of the education, as well as everything I had experienced up to that point. How could I marry it all together?
Right.
So I thought back to when I was a corporate executive, and what I would see when I was in my office, what I would see in the hallways, what I would see every place that I went. And I knew exactly how I could do that was to consult with them, advise them on what they would put in their space to make sure it was aligned with what they would offer to their employees, to themselves, and to those who came into their space.
Yeah.
And so and at that point, I knew our consultants as well. And I thought, wow, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I did my homework a little bit and I read up on it and I just really just kind of connected with different art consultants and just started my business. I just incorporated myself and just kind of started out and just did it that way. It was simple to start it. Wasn't simple to maintain it, but it was simple to start it. So it was just really a natural progression, actually.
Yeah.
Once the corporate career ended, it was really just a natural progression was to start my own business and to do what I had been preparing to do my entire life. The moment I started my business, everything clicked into place and it was like, this is what you've been preparing for your entire life, Quahana, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to a 5-year-old Quahana. This is what you were being prepared for, was this.
Right.
And it just all clicked into place so seamlessly. Not to say it wasn't without bumps, because it was a huge bump came 2 months later, a gigantic bump, which actually caused me to pause and pivot for like 10 years. But again, because my spirit does not understand quit or stop or can't, I continue to persevere. So when that 10-year pause expired and I reestablished the business in 2020, it was as if I had never stopped.
Right.
And so I just keep going. I am like the little engine that could, right?
Yes.
And I just think it's a joy that I have these opportunities to pivot, because when I pivot, it's always in the direction that God wanted me to go in the first place. And so I'm excited about pivots because I always learn something new.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to add to my skill set, to mature my skill set, and to develop my skill set in a way that I couldn't do otherwise.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. It does make sense. And that, I think, is a great way to look at it, as pivoting is a good thing, right? Like, oh, I get to add to my skill set. I'm adding to me as a person, right? And the knowledge that I have acquired and just helping me with a well-rounded life, right? And I think sometimes we can get into I have to change, I have to pivot. Do I really want to do this? But what I'm hearing you saying is like, no, actually, I was kind of meant to do this, right?
Yeah,
like I'm meant to pivot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because everything I learned when I was in corporate America, I worked in finance, I worked in healthcare, in marketing and communications. And you would think that none of that would speak to what I do now, but everything I did then transferred to what I do now.
Yeah.
Because I was in healthcare, because I was in finance, because I was in these different industries, I can therefore talk to my clients who are in healthcare, who are in finance, because I know that language. Right. Because I've been on both sides of the fence.
Right.
And so I think it's a benefit to me.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a plus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was actually glad you mentioned to pick that up, that you been on both sides of the fence, all right? So you know how to speak to corporate, but you also know how to speak to the artist because you're an artist yourself, right? And you're like, oh, I'm kind of combining my two worlds and I'm the translator, right? Between the two worlds of the artist and the corporate. And okay, how do I bring them together, right? And so my question to you would be, how did your artist side receive being a consultant and bringing artwork into these spaces, but also how did the corporate side receive it, right? Like you are this Black woman who's like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm an artist. I've also worked in corporate. I'm going to help y'all bring in artwork so that we can like uplift these office spaces.
Right. Well, the two sides of my brains have always worked in parallel. So neither side was surprised or shocked.
Okay.
Both sides were kind of like, now we get to work together. Because
Okay.
I've always been that artist that told other artists, you need to know your business. You need to understand your money.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand all of that, just a basic understanding about money,
Mm-hmm.
about communications, about marketing, basic. And so because the arts and the academics were always parallel for me, it was just a natural progression for me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I've never been an artist that produced the work to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about selling art of my own art, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know about producing it and about loving it and being creative.
Yeah.
And so from that aspect, it excites me when I can purchase art from an artist and have them have a stream of income from that.
Mm-hmm.
And it give on the same token, it gives me joy when I can take that piece that I bought from an artist,
Yeah.
and therefore bring joy to a client and put it in their space, because they may not know that this is obviously they don't know, because that's why they brought me in, but they don't know that this is the perfect space. This is the perfect piece for them. So when I bring it into them, they're like, this is perfect. This is what I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
And when the artist is there, I love to have the artist bring it to them if they can.
Ooh, yeah.
Because then they can meet and they can talk about that creative process, and the artist can highlight a little bit of what was going on in their mind when they were creating the piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the client really that makes them so much more able to articulate why the piece is there to the people that come into the space, and they can then talk about it with authority. Mm-hmm. They can say, oh, well, this piece was commissioned because of blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And this is the artist, and this is what the artist was thinking.
Yeah.
So it really gives them authority to speak about what's in their space.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a benefit, because I'm always about increasing their art IQ. That means that they can then speak with authority about art. You don't have to be an expert. You can just tell them, I love this piece, and this is why I love it.
Right.
Because of the color. This is why it was made. This is the emotion that was behind it.
Yeah.
So that's increasing the art IQ to me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can support an artist by buying their work and increase the art IQ of my client, then I've done my job. And that's what I love.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Increasing art IQ. Have you trademarked that? I love that.
I haven't, but I will.
You need to.
I have a meeting with my lawyer later on. So
perfect. Bring that up in your discussion.
I will.
Yes.
I will.
Yes. Okay. And so that makes me think about like the corporate spaces I would enter. So working events, for instance, right? I would be staff to check in or coat check or what have you. But now I'm like, I wish I paid more attention to the art that was on the wall when I was walking through these buildings. And have you found in your experience that, sometimes just the art on the wall just not doing it? It's just not.
Always. I tell you, my entire life, the first thing I do when I walk in a building is look at the artwork. I've always done that.
Okay.
And I didn't know why, but now I know why.
Yeah.
And so every time I go into a building, I think, is this artwork aligned with the purpose of the space? Ooh. Most of the time, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And if it is aligned, I'm like, this is great. They have a win. They did it right. Mm-hmm. And if there's no art, it makes me so sad.
Yeah.
But I always look at the art in the space. Yeah. And I remember going into my bank when I started my business, and they had built a beautiful new space that looked out upon the plaza, and there were people walking by all day long, and there were these blank walls. And I told the president, I was like, you know what, you need some art on these walls. I used to work in a bank, and you need art on these walls, because everybody that walks by sees blank white walls. Yeah. What if you had beautiful artwork from an artist that was captivating, that was colorful?
Yeah.
You would bring people into your space, right? Mm-hmm. And they would feel comfortable in that space. They would feel safe they would feel that their money was safe in this space. Whereas if it's just blank white walls, they're like, do I trust my money in this building? And it's a very small thing. Art is not going to solve all the problems, but it's going to address quite a few of them, right?
Right.
And so just small things like a piece of artwork that's facing the street is going to draw people in.
Mm.
Same with medical clinics. You know, when you go to get your teeth cleaned.
Yeah.
I remember in grad school, I was getting just a teeth cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
I go into the dentist's office, a new dentist,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear someone getting work done in the back, and there's drilling and all this kind of stuff. And he had this big, gigantic piece of pop art in his lobby.
Yeah.
And mind you, it's a beautiful piece, but it was completely wrong because it was like this bright cherry red.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just getting a gentle cleaning.
Yeah.
But I felt distress and agitation looking at it, right?
Yeah.
And so had it been the right piece of artwork, it would have calmed me.
Yeah.
It would have promoted a sense of healing in that space. And so that's just a small example of how his patients could have been calm by what they saw in his lobby, in his waiting room.
Yeah.
And that's a small thing. But if you're getting a root canal and you're looking at this piece of artwork, you're going to feel agitation. You're not going to feel, oh, I'm so relaxed about to go get this root canal. You're not going to feel that.
Right.
And so those are things that I look for when I walk into space, because it's all about alignment. And there's a proven clinical connection between our health and artwork and the arts in general.
Yeah.
There are our feelings of well-being are increased. Our stress is reduced. Our productivity is increased. Sense of boredom is decreased.
Yeah.
And so if you're an employer and you have the right artwork in your space, all of your employees are experiencing these good things.
Yeah.
And in the same token, if it's the wrong artwork, they're experiencing the bad things. They're bored. They're distracted. They're unproductive. And I can tell you, when I was in corporate America, I had totally wrong artwork in front of me. And there were days where I felt so bored and so listless because the artwork in front of me was just totally wrong. And so it's just things like that I look for.
Right.
And because those connections are very important. And people don't normally look for that. That's why I'm there, to look for that, to say, how can we make this space better for you, your employees, and everybody else that's involved in your space?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I am so fascinated. I'm like so fascinated by this.
Wow.
Yes. Like that. And that makes her, because like subconsciously, right? What is the art doing to us? Like, yes, we see this piece on the wall, but like you said at the dentist, you were like, I'm not relaxed right now, and I'm just getting a cleaning, right?
Right.
But if you had a different piece, you'd be, I'm just gonna get a cleaning today, nothing big, I'm good, right?
Yes, exactly.
Or sitting at your desk or walking to the copy machine or wherever you happen to be, that artwork and how much it affects you. Again, subconsciously, and like you said, art is not going to bring us world peace, but it can help you like have a joyful day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, so my question to you then would be, have you ever had pushback from, any of your clients about the cost of a piece of art? And like, how do you get them to be like, okay, so it's not frivolous. This art piece is worth it.
Yes. Yes, and yes. Sometimes I have to be a bit of a therapist and tell my clients, it's okay to spend money on art. It's okay. Number one, art is going to appreciate and value. It's actually an investment.
Yeah.
We don't buy it to sell it, but at the end of the day, it is an investment. It's going to appreciate and value.
Yeah.
And when you think about the fact that this is someone's livelihood, so the artist has put blood, sweat, and tears, and time, and money, and resources into this painting. So they fully deserve whatever they're charging for that piece, And it's a matter of, if you are going to, let's say my client is a gentleman, and he's going to his golf club or whatever. He has a golf pro that he works with. There are things that he's going to pay for.
Yeah.
I don't play golf, so I don't really know. I guess they play for the clubs. They pay for the instruction. They pay for the use of the what do you call it? Turf or whatever.
The green, yeah.
They pay for the use of the space to go and hit the balls.
Yes.
So all of those are fees and costs that are associated with their sport, their hobby. So does the golf club deserve those fees that they charge? Is it bringing you value? Is it adding value to your life? The golf club has to make money, right? So think of the golf club as the artist.
Okay.
The artist is not going to paint this for free. They need to pay their bills.
Right.
Yeah. And so I just come at it from the aspect of this is their job.
Yeah.
And you are paying someone for a service, a product. Therefore, they deserve to be paid.
Yeah.
For their effort, for their resource, for their time. This is their livelihood.
Yeah.
It's not frivolous. It's not elitist. It's not unnecessary. It is the opposite of all of that. So I have to really kind of counsel them that it is okay to spend money on art. It really is okay.
Right.
And some of them think that because they hire me, that they don't have to pay for the art.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. Like you're hiring an art consultant, but the art consultant is not going to buy the painting for you. Oh. You hire me for my service, but you have to buy the art.
Right.
I tell you what to buy, but you buy it, right?
Yeah.
I buy it on your behalf. So it's a lot of educating clients. Yeah. And I give no condemnation, no shade to them at all because they don't know. Right. It's my job to educate them. So I tell them, this is how the process works.
Yeah.
I come in, I get to know you, I get to know your space, and then I'm going to advise you on some certain pieces. And we're going to have a partnership. We're going to find the right pieces for you together.
Right.
And once we find those pieces, you're going to buy it. I'm going to buy it on your behalf, but you're going to write that check, right?
Okay.
And then you're going to pay my fee.
Yes.
So it all comes together.
Yeah.
But it's about educating the client in the kindest, most gentlest, most loving way.
Yes.
Of how it works.
Yeah.
And everybody that's in this process has a part to play. Whether it's monetary, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional. And we respect each of those pieces that we play, right?
Yeah.
So it's about being a counselor sometimes.
Yeah.
But once they're educated on how that process works, they're all for it. And some clients are like, I don't care what it costs. I love it. Let's buy it. Those are my favorite.
Right. Those would be my favorite too. Unlimited budget.
Those are my favorite. And when I'm advising an artist to a client, I love to give that artist backstory because usually when you give that backstory, then there's a connection.
Yeah.
And they really don't have a lot of pushback because they know they already have an emotion connected to that artist at some point, right? Yeah. And so when I can give as much information about the artist as possible, it helps me to sell that piece to them, to the client. And so I love when I can get to know an artist and just kind of whether it's from their website or whether I can talk to them directly. It's an opportunity for me to better represent them if I'm going to, not represent them, represent the piece I'm advising to the client.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
That does make sense. At the
end of the day, I'm trying to get the artist some money, right?
Yes.
And I'm trying to get my client the right piece at the end of the day.
Right.
I'm working for both of them to make sure that they align with each other.
Exactly. Yes. It is about alignment. Like you said, as you've been saying, it's about alignment, getting the artist paid and getting the right artwork on the wall that is aligned with what the business represents or, the community or whoever is going to have the artwork on the wall. And so that leads me to a question. So it's a double-parter. One, how do you source your artists? Do you have like a roster of artists that you look for? And
I don't. I'm sorry, you were about to say something. I interrupted.
No, you're good. So that's the first part of the question. But then the second part is when you do find those artists, are they surprised about like being in corporate spaces? Like, hey, I want to maybe talk about putting your, artwork up in this office. And like, has any artist been caught off guard about, wait a minute, what? I could put my art in corporate spaces?
I don't think that they've been caught off guard because I think a lot of them think that that's a good thing.
Okay, yeah.
And I source, to answer your first part of the question, I source artists from everywhere.
Okay.
I don't necessarily have a roster.
Yeah.
But every time I see art, I'm always trying to go see art, whether it's online, whether it's a gallery opening. If I see it, I make a note of it.
Okay.
Like I have a folder where I put things I've seen in the folder, or if I have their website, I bookmark it, because at that point I can refer back to them.
Yeah.
I can say, oh, I saw this piece last week from this person, and they would be a great fit for this client.
Yeah.
And then I can present that to the client and say, what do you think about this piece? And then we can whittle down what they actually want to the final piece. But most of the artists are excited to think, wow, I could have my piece in the space. That's great.
Yeah.
And even if I present 10 artists to a client and we whittle it down to 3, those other 7, maybe we could use them in some other part of the company.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can use them for the next client. So it's never a guarantee that because I look at this artist that this piece is going to wind up in the space. But at least at that point, I have them on someone's radar.
Right.
So that client may come back to me later and say, hey, you remember that artist we saw when we were looking at the lobby? Let's think about them for the conference room, So there's always ways to put them in some space, some way and shape or form.
Right.
But most artists I would think would be like, oh, this is great to have my piece in this corporate art space.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they don't. Maybe some of them don't want that. And that's totally fine. Maybe they don't agree with the mission or the mandate of that company. And maybe they don't want their stuff there. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But maybe they want their space. Maybe they want their artwork in a public space. Maybe they want their artwork in a community center.
Yeah.
Maybe they want it in someone's home. So there are always options to source work to the right person. But I'm telling you, if I was an artist selling work, I'm happy to sell it. Put it where you want to put it. As long as you buy it, exactly. I'm okay with this, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I love to start with local artists. To support them first.
Yeah.
But I can source from anywhere in the world because of technology.
Yeah.
I can see an artist in the Netherlands and love his piece. We can commission something from them and have them ship it.
Yeah.
Or we can look at their gallery and buy something that's already in existence. So there's always ways to do that. Or if they're local, the good thing about them being local is that they can come and deliver the piece to the client and then they can meet the client. I think that's always great when they can meet the person.
Yeah.
Because then they can, again, like I said a moment ago, they can tell the client what they were thinking, the process, and the emotion behind it. And I think that always helps the transaction go a little smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Did I answer your question?
You did answer my question. Yes. Both of them. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's, I love that too. That because of technology now and shipping things, you can source art from all over the world. But to have the artists meet, whoever they're meeting in the company to be like, hey, this is my artwork that you're about to hang on your wall, I think is incredible. It makes that connection, like you said, right? Like you are the go-between or the consultant, the matchmaker, if you will.
Yes.
You're like, I'll have you y'all should meet. And I think that's
in the same token, I can have clients anywhere also. I love to physically be in the space so I can assess it and feel that emotion in the space. But if the client is somewhere else, we can do that all via technology.
Right.
Now, mind you, there is a personal element that is affected by me not being there. But we have done walkthroughs virtually, and maybe I can get an artist that's local to them that they can meet even if I'm not there.
Yeah.
And because I'm not there, there are professionals that we can always subcontract through who will go and install the work, who will deliver the work, who will do all of these things, whether I'm there or not.
Right.
So there's always ways to have a client and an artist that's not local to me.
Yeah.
And it's all because of technology. And I love that because it just opens my horizons. I can work anywhere. I can meet these wonderful people, these wonderful artists all over the place. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is a win-win. It is a win-win.
Yes.
So I do have a question for you. And you may be like,
Yes.
girl, no, I didn't. I know you told me that when you used to work in corporate that you were kind of just like unimpressed by the artwork that was like on the walls around you. Did you, once your business got up and thriving, you were like, I'm an art consultant now and I could, zhuzh a place up. Did you ever go back to where you worked and was like, let me help y'all out?
I have not, but a lot of my former coworkers I'm still friendly with and in association with.
Yeah.
And so it's always a door where I could say, hey, and they always knew that my background was in the arts. And so they would always say stuff like, hey, Quahana, how's the artwork around here? And I would always say, it's terrible, So I've always held that door open to say, hey, guys, how about we talk about this art in this building? How can we talk about that?
Yeah.
And so it's always on my radar to do that.
Yeah.
I've just not done it yet, but it's a strategic move that I will make in the future. But it's in my back pocket, but I haven't yet done it.
Okay.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes.
It's in your back pocket. I love that.
Yes. Thank you for putting it at the forefront of my mind today.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And I had is there by any chance, and you don't have to answer this so you don't hurt anybody's feelings, but is there any like piece of art that has been your favorite to place or maybe have brought you the most joy to place?
I don't know if I've had a favorite, but I would say my most recent was very joyful and emotional.
Yeah.
The artist was someone I had worked with probably years ago. I had bought a piece from her for one of my other clients. Actually, it wasn't a client. It was actually a business associate. And I was in a group with them and I was trying to increase their art IQ. And so we had a giveaway. And so I bought her a piece to give away to one of my associates. And they were so in love with the piece.
Yeah.
And so I kept her at the front of my mind. And when I had a client recently, and he was just like, I don't really know what's missing in the space. And I thought, well, we need something that's joyful in the space and colorful. So I immediately thought of her because she had these beautiful pieces. And so I reached out to her and she was like, oh my God, this would be great to be in the space. It's awesome, And so I thought, well, let's commission a piece from her, right?
Yeah.
And so she was so excited about it that she actually adopted, like I always say that I'm glorious. And so she adopted that as the name of the piece. And so I actually named the piece without meaning to. And so she called it glorious. She called it golden deliciousness.
Yeah.
Because I remember when she showed me, when she was in the middle of it in her studio, she showed me. And I said, this is just golden deliciousness. And so she thought, wow, this is the title. And so when I was like, I cry at everything, right? So I was about to cry.
Yeah.
And she brought it to the corporate space when we were installing it. And she was so emotional because she thought this was so special to her to make this piece.
Yeah.
For him. And he was emotional because he thought, wow, someone made this for me.
Yeah.
Just for my space.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't my favorite, but it was my most joyful to date because it was like this connection when she walked in with it and when she put it on the wall, everything just lit up. And he was astounded. He was amazed. I was amazed because seeing it in person on the wall is different than seeing it on the easel in a studio.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I named it, the fact that she was emotional about it, the fact that he was emotional about it, really just made it so fulfilling and worthwhile.
Yeah.
So I would say that's my most joyful to date. But my most favorite piece to place is a piece that I placed in my home.
Yes. Okay.
When I started collecting art, Well, whenever I was moving around for school or work, I would always buy a piece of art and bring it to my parents. And so they became collectors without wanting to, right?
Yeah.
They would always say, "Why are you bringing us this artwork?" And I would say, "Oh, because I want you guys to have artwork."
Yeah.
So they have pieces of artwork from Pennsylvania, from Dallas, from North Carolina. Every place I've lived or worked or went to school, they have a piece. And so I started collecting for myself in my own home.
Yeah.
Probably about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And I have pieces that I've done in my house, but I wanted to support artists that were local. So the first piece I bought outside of my own work is actually my favorite.
Yeah.
It was an artist that was graduating from his MFA. He was going to Japan, and he was selling all of his artwork from his undergraduate career.
Okay.
For like really, really wonderful prices.
Yeah.
I would have paid triple what I paid, right? And so I got this piece of artwork from him, this woodcut, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And to this day, it remains my favorite.
Aww.
It's above my door. I see it every day when I leave and when I come in.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite.
Yes.
And he doesn't even produce art anymore.
Okay.
But I have his piece, and I can always say, "Oh, I have his piece from when he was." Before he blew up, I have one of his pieces, right?
Right.
And so he still does commissions, but he doesn't really paint anymore, but he'll do a commission.
Okay.
So that's my favorite. So if I could get a commission piece from him for one of my clients, to me, that would probably be my favorite because I love his work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
I love that so much. Yes. And so I would like to ask you, what nugget of wisdom, piece of advice do you have for artists, creatives, and those who, are trying to be the little train that could? Because sometimes you're like, I'm just going to stop right here on these tracks because, child, life is lifing.
Right. I would say, and you asked me this question, I think, on my form. And I think what I said is do not be afraid because God is with you. That's always what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Because it's true. And because God is with you and you're not afraid, you can be fearless. And you won't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
You won't be afraid to ask for help. And you will not be afraid to say no. And when I say no, I mean no is a full, complete sentence. You do not have to explain. You do not have to qualify.
Yeah.
You can just say no. And you can say it so sweet. I can say it very sweet, but I can say it no. I can say no. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And don't be afraid to say no because God is with you and you're fearless.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that too. Yes. All right. So to wrap up, I want to know where everybody can find you out here on the interwebs. But also, do you accept people reaching out to you, say via Instagram or email or your website about, maybe they're an artist and they're like, hey, can you look at some of my pieces to be considered?
Yes, I love that. Artists can email me. Well, first of all, they can go to my website, which is qhendreeartconsulting.com. And I'm sure you'll link that for everybody so
I will.
They can pull it up. On Instagram, it's again Q Hendree Art Consulting. On LinkedIn, it's Q Hendree Art Consulting. So they can email me. That link is on the website. And many artists do that. They will email me and say, hey, Quahana, this is my website. Keep me in mind for future potential clients. And I do that. I put it in my little artist folder.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that because I love to see art. The more I see, the more I have the opportunity to offer the best pieces to my clients. Right. So yes, please reach out to me. Yes.
Love it. Okay.
And if you're a client and you want to hire me, same deal.
Same deal.
All of my the first consultation is always free because it's about seeing if they need me or if we're aligned as a partnership.
Right.
So I always invite clients to reach out to me, and then we talk about what they want, what they need, and I can kind of get an idea of if they'd be a good fit or what I can do for them. Yeah. Because if I'm not a good fit for them, I'll tell them. If they need to do something else, I'll tell them. It's about that first consultation. So that's always free for a client. So they can reach out to me too. When you go to my website, there is a Contact Us tab. When you click on that tab, whether you're a client or an artist, you can reach me through that.
Okay. Perfect. And yes, everyone, I will have that linked in the show notes so you can easily click. And I want to say thank you for sharing. I am, as you know, we've talked offline, so intrigued by what you do. and it makes me happy, right, that you're connecting the two worlds and that you love the artist, but you're also like, all right, well, y'all, let's get you paid. Let's increase the art IQ of the businesses and the corporate world so that we can mesh the two. So I thank you so much for sharing the space with me. And before I let you go, I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Much. I receive it.
You're so welcome. You're welcome. And coming up on the next episode of the Artist Pivot Podcast.
Hi, I'm Micah Dewani, and I'm on the Artist Pivot Podcast. I've reached such a space, I think because I've made space for my emotions, and I never gaslit myself into being like, yeah, you're fine. If I was cooked, I was cooked. And I allowed myself to be cooked, you know? Yeah. And so now I've reached a mental space where I just appreciate the journey. And there's no ill will. There's no malice from my past. I have an appreciation for everything I've gone through and who it's made me as an artist. And I think it's all wonderful.
This show is hosted and produced by me, Ayana Major Bey. Show editor is Kieran Niemand. Show theme song lyrics written by Ayana Major Bey and Melissa Victor. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this show with your friends.